Phylum Chordata accounts for all 52,000 species of vertebrates on Earth and several thousand species of invertebrates. Together, they range from tiny, brainless filter feeders all the way up to humans. Now, you know by now that when we talk about classifying animals, we're really talking about their share of ancestry. Each new branch on this diagram marks an important evolutionary milestone. Just like with tissue layers and segmentations in simpler animals, there are traits we can look for to track the evolution of chordates. By the time all those traits appear in one organism, we'll have arrived at the most complex class within the most complex phylum, which are the mammals.
But first, let's start with the fundamentals. The synapomorphic traits. These are traits that set a group of animals apart from its ancestors, and from other groups that came from the same ancestors. Chordates share four synapomorphies that make us who we are. Each of them is present at some point in every chordate's life cycle.
An example of this would be the lancelet, also known as the Cephalochordata, meaning they have head chords, and they are one of the three subphyla of chordates. And unlike almost all other chordates, these tiny, brainless, invertebrate filter feeders retain all four of these characteristics for their entire lives. First, there's the notochord, a structure made of cartilage that run between an animal's digestive tube and its nerve cord. In most vertebrates, the skeleton develops around the notochord and allows the muscle to attach. In humans, the notochord is reduced to the discs of cartilage that we have between our vertebrae. Second, we have the nerve cord itself, known as the dorsal hollow nerve cord. It is a tube made of nerve fibers that develop in the central nervous system. This is what makes chordates different from other animal phyla, which have solid ventral nerve cords, meaning they run along the front or stomach side. Third, all chordates have pharyngeal slits. In invertebrates like the lancelet here, they function as filters for feeding. In fish and other aquatic animals, they are gill slits. And in land-dwelling vertebrates like us, they disappear before we're even born. But that tissue develops into areas around our jaws, ears, and other structures in the head and neck. And finally, we have the post-anal tail. It helps propel aquatic animals through water. In humans, it shrinks during embryonic development into what is known as the coccyx or the tailbone.
These four traits all began to appear during the Cambrian explosion more than 500 million years ago, and today they are shared by members of all three chordate subphyla, even if the animals in those subphyla look pretty much nothing like each other. For instance, here in the Cephalochordata, which are the oldest living subphylum, but we cannot forget the other invertebrate groups of chordates, the Urochordata, meaning tail chords. There are over 2,000 species here, including sea sperms. If you're confused about why this ended up in a phylum with us, it is because they have a tadpole-like larvae with all four chordate characteristics. The adults, which have a highly developed internal structure with a heart and other organs, retain the pharyngeal slits, but all the other chordate features disappear or reform into other structures.
The third and last and most complex subphylum is the Vertebrata, which has the most species in it, because its members have a hard backbone, which has allowed for an explosion in diversity, from tiny minnows to the great blue whale. And as these classes become more complex, you can identify the traits they each developed that gave them an evolutionary edge over the ones that came before.
For example, the hagfish, which contain a brain. Vertebrates with a head that contains sensory organs and a brain are called craniates. These species also contain a heart with at least 2 chambers.
Since science is involved, there will always be an exception to every rule that we have to remember. The exception in this case is the Myxini or the hagfish, the only vertebrate class that has no vertebrae but is classified with us because it contains a skull. The snake-like creature swims by using segmented muscles to exert force against its notochord.
Closely related to it is the class Petromyzonidae, also known as lampreys, the oldest living lineage of vertebrates. They contain a backbone made of cartilage and a more complex nervous system. With the advent of the backbone, we see vertebrates getting larger, developing more complex skeletons, and becoming more effective at catching food and avoiding their predators.
Lampreys and other early vertebrates are considered agnatans, meaning they do not have jaws. Most scientists think that the jaw evolved from the structures that supported the first 2 pharyngeal slits near the mouth.
Gnathostomes or jaw mouths arrived on the scene 470 million years ago, and one of the oldest and most successful groups of gnathostomes that have survived to the present day are the class Chondrichthyes, the cartilage fish. We may know them as sharks, skates, and rays, and as their name suggests, their skeleton is made up mostly of cartilage, but they show the beginnings of a calcified skeleton. They have not changed much over the past 30 million years or so, and their success stems from the paired fins that allow for efficient swimming and jaws for biting off hunks of flesh. If we're going to eventually get to mammals, we need bones, and we find those with the evolution of fish. Meet Osteichthyes, which technically mean bony fish. Unlike cartilaginous fish, members of this group have a mineralized endoskeleton.
Now, Osteichthyes is sometimes considered a superclass because it includes a whole slew of diverse classes that descended from it. There are controversies among taxonomists about what to call it, but the main thing to know is that most of all vertebrates fall under Osteichthyes, and that includes you. They are broken up into two main groups. The first is Actinotherigi or ray fin fishes, and with 27,000 species, pretty much every fish you have ever heard of is in this group. Ray fin fishes evolved in freshwater, spread out into the oceans, and some eventually came back to freshwater. In the second group, they are called the low fin fishes or the Sarcopteregi, a name derived from bones surrounded by muscle found in their pectoral and pelvic fins. Low fins include the coelacanths, which consist of one living species, the lungfish, which gulp air into their lungs, and tetrapods which have adapted to land with four limbs.
Now we'll discuss about tetrapods, which means that they have 4 feet. And getting those 4 feet onto land was interesting for the early creatures as it meant that they could escape the increasingly brutal and predatory world of the ocean. Tetrapods gradually replaced their fins with limbs and developed entirely new body parts that were never seen before, like necks, with the help of additional vertebra that separated the body from the head.
The first tetrapods are today found in the class Amphibia, which were the first creatures to develop a 3-chambered heart. There are more than 6,000 known species of amphibians like frogs and salamanders, most of which begin life as tadpoles in water, and then later develop legs, lungs, and a digestive system, and often migrate to land for adulthood.
Amphibians lay eggs that do not have shells, so they dehydrate quickly. That is why they must be laid in water, which leads us to the next evolutionary milestone for the chordates, the amniotic egg.
Amniotes are tetrapods that have eggs adapted for life on land, a group that includes reptiles, birds, and mammals. The amniotic eggs were crucial for the success of land dwellers, allowing embryos to develop in their own private pond of the amniotic sac, often surrounded by a hard shell in the case of reptiles and birds.
The class Reptilia represents the earliest amniotes. Like amphibians, they have 3-chambered hearts, but they are totally terrestrial. This is where we find the snakes, turtles, and lizards. We often hear reptiles as cold-blooded, but this does not mean that their blood is cold. They are ectothermic, meaning they absorb external heat as their main source of body heat. Hence, the lizard that likes to lay in the sun all day. The oldest group of reptiles are the archosaurs. They mostly disappeared when most of the dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. But 2 lineages of archosaurs survive. One includes the modern-day reptiles such as crocodiles and alligators, and the other is a type of dinosaur that we now call birds, the class Aves. One of the many species in the Philippines under class Reptilia are the Crocodylus mindorensis, or commonly known as the Philippine crocodile. This species is adapted to life in fresh water and exhibits behaviors that help it avoid larger predators, such as remaining camouflaged in water. It is critically endangered, with fewer than 100 individuals remaining in the wild.
While in class Aves, we may find the Pithecophaga jeffrey, or commonly known as the Philippine eagle. Its large wings and sharp talons help it hunt and capture prey, including monkeys, snakes, and large birds. It has also evolved to survive in the Philippines' mountainous and forested regions. This eagle is critically endangered due to habitat loss, deforestation, and hunting. There are obvious differences between these two. One is designed for eating and one fighting big animals, while the other is designed for flying around.
But the not so obvious but equally important difference is that birds are endotherms, which means that they can crank up their metabolism to regulate their body temperature. Producing all that heat requires a big furnace, which is provided, all thanks to the evolution of a 4-chambered heart.
There is only one other group of animals that developed this trait, and it allowed them to spread through the planet, which are known as class Mammalia.
Otherwise known as amniotes, that contain hair, 3 special ear bones, and mammary glands. Most mammals have evolved to dispense with a hard eggshell altogether the embryo, avoiding predation and other environmental dangers by developing inside their mother's body.
An example of these are tarsiers, Carlitos siricita. The large eyes of the tarsiers are evolved to maximize its ability to hunt at night. Its long fingers and toes evolved for exceptional grip and balance in its arboreal, tree-dwelling environment. Although previously classified as vulnerable, the Philippine tarsier is now considered near threatened due to habitat loss and human encroachment. It is found in the islands of Bohol, Leyte, Samar, and Mindanao.
In this class of chordates, you'll find yourself, your dog, your cat, African elephants, the South American poodoo, and 5,300 other known species of mammals.
It all began with a simple ancestor more than 500 million years in this chordate phylum, and now you know exactly who you are.